Hello and welcome to the 2016 Development Webinar Series by Franchise Business Review. Today's session, again, is Attracting Better, Not More Candidates, Finding the Right Franchisees, and is part one of our three-part series. I'm Michael Kupfer, and I'm joined today by our company president, Michelle Rowan, who will be moderating today's panel discussion, and we'll also have with us a great panel of franchisors to share their insights on lead generation. Please welcome Leeward CEO of Big Frog Custom T-Shirts, Sandee Devine, VP of Franchise Development for Murphy Business, and Kevin Wilson, CEO of Buzz Brands, parent company of Mosquito Joe. Thank you all for joining us today. We're excited for this discussion. And before I hand over the microphone to Michelle to get us going, I just wanted to touch on a few data points provided to us for additional context. And this was all provided by Franchise Update Media, so we appreciate their sharing their information with us. This first slide here is just a reminder that your online presence as a franchisor is really key to your development efforts, with 92% of future franchisees using the internet to research brands. And you can obviously expect to edge a little bit closer as we go along with each passing year. So your internet presence is really key to those development efforts. It sounds like we have a little bit of background interference, so I think one of our panelists might be not on mute. So if you just look into that, please. And then in this next graphic, we have a look at where franchisors are spending their money on their digital marketing. And as you can see here, 1/3 is going to portals and to other franchise opportunity websites. Nearly another third is being put into search engine optimization and pay-per-click, and then the rest is split among the remaining channels that you see here. So just kind of an idea of where different brands are spending their money, and you can figure out where you line up with these and if you're doing anything that is totally out of the ordinary, which is not necessarily a bad thing. And before we jump into the next slide, we do have a quick poll question that I'm going to pull up on the screen here. And we just want to know, what is your average cost per sale for your franchise development? And we're going to kind of talk about this topic as we go along. So I'm going to give you a couple of seconds to answer that. And while you're doing that, I'm going to pull up the next slide, which shows us that there is an average industry-wide cost per sale of about $7,500 to go along with $109 cost per lead. So again, different brands have different goals and different target costs, but you can kind of get a sense of where in the spectrum your brand falls related to those. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to, or not, a couple more seconds rather, to finish answering that poll. Okay. All right, and so we're going to share that information momentarily. And while doing that, I want to just thank again Franchise Update Media for providing this information, and hand the conversation off to Michelle Rowan and our panel to get us going today.
Awesome, thanks, Mike. So again, we do want you to use the chat function in the right-hand side, and we'll work it into our conversation. And if that doesn't happen, we will save it till the end as well. But really, I think what we try and do here at Franchise Business Review is provide the most actionable content or best practices or experiences from our panelists. And we certainly have 3 people that are awesome to join us today. So what I'd like to do is, very briefly, I'm going to ask each of you to just share a little bit about your brand so that the audience understands the context around when you talk about where and how you're getting your best leads. I just want you to share the investment level of your franchise, the year that you started franchising, and the number of units that you have. So Leeward, if you want to just start with that, just to give people an idea if you're around the same investment level, and if that matters when we're looking for leads.
Thanks, Michelle. Again, I'm Leeward Bean. I'm CEO and founder of Big Frog Franchise Group. Our concept is a light manufacturing retail. We do custom garment, custom decorated apparel. Our franchise fee is $39,500. Total investment, including working capital and everything, is somewhere between $187,500 and $135,000. We started franchising in the fall of 2008, and today we've awarded 83 franchises. We've got 68 stores open in 23 states. We've got 9 in the pipeline, and we expect to award 5 or 6 more by the end of the year.
Awesome. Thank you, Leeward. Sandee, how about you? A little background on where Murphy's at.
Hi, I'm Sandee Devine from Murphy Business, and we are a business brokerage franchise helping people buy and sell businesses as well as franchises. We have been franchising since late 2006. We have an investment of about $60,000, franchise fee $35,000. And right now we have 180 units, and we have about 9, 10 in the pipeline, and we're looking to close probably 5 more, if we're lucky 6 by the end of the year.
Perfect. And Kevin, how about you? Focusing on Mosquito Joe.
Thanks, Michelle. My name's Kevin Wilson. I'm the CEO of Mosquito Joe. We began franchising in 2013. Today we have 120 unique franchisees. We've sold 270 territories in 27 states, and 170 of those are open this year. We expect to have about 240 open next year. Our franchise fee is $25,000. Total investment per territory is about $90,000, and we'd be considered as an outdoor pest control segment and home-based mobile business.
Perfect. So there's some context for everyone that's listening. So, you know, I'm with Franchise Business Review, and I'm lucky to work with all 3 of the brands that are here today. And they're all FBR members, which means that they're actually sharing their franchisee satisfaction data publicly online. So what I'd like to start with is just specifically with your franchisee feedback, sharing that with candidates, but also how do you feel having a level of transparency is helping you, not just on the lead generation quantity piece, but on the quality of the people that you're talking to, and also what other data besides the franchisee satisfaction report are you sharing with candidates to help generate information or interest in the brand before they talk to you? So Kevin, I want to go back to you and start there.
Sure. So we do share the FBR surveys, as you mentioned. I think it's incredible to be transparent with the candidates that are coming in for a number of different reasons. I think it sets the system up for more success after the doors are opened, if people have a much better idea as to what to expect when they get into the system. We do a number of things, including as everyone has, we have all of our franchisees in the back of the FDD. We encourage the candidates to make validation calls to our franchisees. We also have a sales process where we push out a significant amount of information to our franchisees over the course of a 30 to 60-day period before they come into our office for what we call decision day. So I just think that there's so much information out there that it's important that, you know, whether you're online or doing it yourself, you need to be a little bit ahead of the curve and push the information to them so they get the right information.
Excellent. That's good. Now, Sandee, how about you as far as what your franchisees feel about the brand, and then other information that you're using to help in that transparency piece with a candidate?
You know, we've been lucky enough to have a very high validation rate with our franchisees, and they are not only brutally honest with us, but they're also brutally honest with candidates, and they'll be the first ones to tell a candidate this isn't the right system for them based on the calls. But what they really like is that those prospects that are calling them don't call them until after they've gone through what we'll call our education process, which includes the FBR report. So if they saw a negative comment in the FBR report, it's something that they're going, obviously the prospects will bring up, and the franchisees are already aware of it because we share this report with all of our franchisees as well, of course. So what we find is that it really narrows the time frame for a prospect to do their validation, and it gets them much more focused on what's important to them because they have so much information in advance.
Awesome. Yeah, and I think if they're showing that they've gathered this information that you're making available to them and they're digesting it, that's one signal that they're a better prepared candidate for you, that they're not just kicking the tires.
They're much more engaged if they've gone to that extent. And that's the really critical piece to us, is how engaged are they really? How much time do we want to invest in that prospect? And that's really a key marker for us.
Awesome. And Leeward, how about you guys?
We use it, Michelle, for a variety of reasons, but the main one is to detect their level of interest. And we like to give our prospective franchisees assignments, and it gives us a good indication as how they will be as a franchisee if they do the things that we ask them to do and that they agree to do. And if they don't do them, then it gives us really a leg up on it. But from a transparency standpoint, we use this, you know, in one of on one of our slides during Discovery Day is the awards that we've won, and we tout the fact that we have been on Franchise Business Review's top 50 for franchisee satisfaction for 5 years in a row. And then as part of that whole process of using it, Franchise Business Review, it cuts down on the need. What we found is it cuts down on the time that the prospective franchisees need for validation, because a lot of their questions are validated through the survey, and that's been a big one for us. And then as well, we are totally transparent with not only our franchisees but our franchisees' prospects, and we have a 20-page item 19 in our FDD. And the last thing that I want is one of our new franchisees to be surprised, you know, oh, I didn't know I could do that, or I thought I could make more money, or whatever. So we try and let everybody know up front as much as we can. So
good. And Leeward, I'm going to stay with you because I think that goes to it with this piece of transparency to attract a higher caliber person that's into this data and doing this work. How early on in your process are you sharing the FD? And you know, I think that there's been a shift over the last 10 years since I've been working with franchisors. We've seen a shift in more item 19s just in general being there, but a shift in detailed item 19s that can be used to better educate a candidate. So those are my two questions now, and I'll start with you, Leeward, is when are you sharing the FDD, and how much are you sharing in the financials or in the item 19 and item 7 section?
We send out the FDD after they've had an opportunity to go to the Franchise Business Review survey. We want them to do something before they get the FDD. So it's step number 4 in our process. But the thing that we did this year with the FDD as well is, you're exactly right. When we first started, our item 19 was pretty much bare. And what I found was when people came in for Discovery Day, I couldn't say things that I wanted to say. And so I said, that's it. We're just going to put it all out there. Everything that we have, we put out there. And then going into 2017, we will put it in an owner benefit statement as well. So to me, that's really important, that we can talk about set expectations. I break the item 19 down in thirds, the top third, the middle third, and the bottom third. And then at Discovery Day, it's really easy to say, now, where do you want to play? It's all about, you know, where you want to be in this picture. So that's been very satisfactory for us.
Good. Kevin, how about you? As far as when do you share that FDD, and how much are you what information are you sharing in it?
Sure. So we share FDD towards the end of the sales process. We have a series of webinars, sort of steps that they go through. So there's a CEO introduction webinar, there's a marketing webinar, an operations webinar. We have a series of them that are sent out, but they only get the subsequent webinar if they've completed the one before it. And then we have an appointment set up. What Jody or Walter from our development team will then get on the phone, discuss the previous webinar, and then give them the keys to the next one. So it's sort of a well thought out standard process. It weeds people out along the way. We then share the FDD through electronically, and we do it then through appointment. It's set up, and one of our development folks then walk through the 23 items of disclosure with the candidate, and then there is a detailed item 19. So we produce full P&Ls for the single corporate location over the last several years, and then we produce 100% of all locations aggregated revenue numbers by class, so they get a good idea as to how each year and each vintage is doing. So fairly transparent. And then there's a Q&A format in our item 19, which we've heard is the most common questions that are asked by franchisees that are related to financials. We pose it as a Q&A, so we ask the question and then we answer it.
Perfect. Love it. So Sandee, how about you? Your FDD, when is it given and how much is being shared in that to better prepare your candidates?
We have a 6-step process that we go through with our franchise prospects, and depending on the candidate, it will be provided to them in either the 3rd or the 4th step. We also go through a full FDD review with them. I actually do the FDD review. That's my opportunity to interview the candidates that my team's bringing to me. We're one of those franchisors that currently does not have an item 19. We don't have a steady revenue stream. If you think of it as real estate agents for businesses, so it's a little more difficult to break that out. We are working diligently because as a salesperson, obviously, I want the item 19, so we hope to have one next year. At this point, we haven't seen that as a difficulty, again, only because our franchisees are very transparent with them when they get to the point of due diligence. And we give them due diligence guidelines so they understand how to phrase questions to get better answers.
Perfect.
Michelle,
So
before
let's
we
go
go
on.
on,
No,
Michelle?
go ahead, Leeward. Yeah.
I forgot to mention something, that we did something different this year regarding our FDD that we hadn't done before that has really worked well, and I wanted to share that with everybody because what we do is we spiral bind the FDD and we send it out to them so that they get it the day of the day before the FDD review. And we include with that a yellow highlighter, Post-it notes, and a pen. And the potential franchisees have loved that. Every one of them that comes in thanks us and so forth. So we've gone totally away from the FDD, if you will, the electronic FDD, and we send it out in hard copy. So
Very good. So now we're going to move on to we're going to focus on quality lead generation sources. So Kevin, I'm going to start with you as far as what sources are you getting leads from, but more importantly, which is producing the highest quality of leads for you guys?
So we are in the consultant networks. The two big ones that we spend most of our time with are FranChoice and FranNet. I would say that they would probably be the highest quality leads in terms of just financially well qualified, good backgrounds, and we tend to close about one in 8 or so of those that come through. And then following that would be entrepreneur.com and then FBR. So those would be the top 3 sources.
So Kevin, can I just pause right there, because I think that brokers I think are a great source, especially when you're starting as a franchise system and trying to focus on the quality side of it. But I know that well, one, they're expensive, so that's one piece of it that will drive your cost per sale up. But you're not paying them unless you get that franchisee. But how did you approach the brokers? Or I know that sometimes they're selective about who they work with. So how did you present your brand in a way that made it very appealing to the brokers? And how do you stay top of mind with them to recommend your brand?
Yeah, so good questions, and I'll add a couple things from the broker networks. I think we chose the franchise for the first 2 years without entering the broker networks, and it was really important for us to develop our own organic development program, which we still have today. So I personally think that's a very important topic to do. I don't think you ever want to be dependent on any one group. So we did do that, and it's worked out well. To get into the brokers, I would say it's almost I think it is a requirement to have an item 19, and it needs to be a strong item 19. I mean, these are professional people that know how to work with candidates, and they want to get behind a system that is going to produce good results for their candidates and be able to demonstrate that. And the way they do that is through the item 19. So I think we were able to produce a good item 19 with the results that we had, and that made that work well. Beyond that, in terms of just keeping top of mind with the brokers, it is very important that when you do enter the broker networks, first, let me step back. First, there's a qualification process. So not everybody that wants to get into broker networks and gets it. They actually go through a fairly significant vetting process that includes calling existing franchisees, going through your FDD, among a number of things. So if you do get in, it is important that you've got your A game ready to go, because when they start sending you leads, you've got to be able to process those leads in a way that is efficient, and they want to feel what brokers care about are two things. I mean, they want to know that their candidates are going to be well handled, and they want to know that the person on the other end is going to be able to convert them into a franchisee, which ultimately is when they get paid. And so they got to have a lot of faith and confidence in the people that they're working with that that's going to happen. Beyond that, that's the easiest way to stay top of mind with them, is to keep selling deals when they bring franchisees to you, candidates to you. Beyond that, they have a series of biannual or semi-annual conventions, conferences that we go to. So we go to about 4 a year, and then a series of just outbound calls on a regular basis to people in certain areas. The two consultant groups, FranNet and FranChoice, they are a little bit different. FranNet is a territory-based model, so it's really good if you've got certain areas that you want to build out. You can talk to the consultant in that area. FranChoice does not have that requirement, so they can go pretty much anywhere.
Perfect. So Sandee, how about you? Where are you getting your leads from, and which is producing the highest quality of lead for you?
We are getting leads from brokers. Obviously, we're business and franchise brokers ourselves, so we rely heavily upon that. We work with International Franchise Professionals Group, which really caters to franchise brokers, and they pay to be a member of that network, so of course they're pretty engaged. But the most engaged leads that we get actually are coming from our website, so our efforts are geared toward leading potential franchisees to our actual website. And then, of course, we do some portal leads, and they're portal leads. We know what they are. So the order is our website, franchise business review, then brokers. But we actually get a better result from FBR than we... What's that?
I was going to say, is there anything that you're doing on your website that you feel is helping to eliminate some of the quantity leads and focus more on getting the better lead candidates to connect with you? Or is it really just that you are just trying to capture the quantity, and then you're using your process to filter out the better piece of that candidate?
No, the majority of the leads that come to our website that actually continue through, we know that they started at our actual business website, and maybe they were looking for a business first. We can't track their entire history on the site, but we do know that over 50% of those that come over to our franchise website came there from our business website. And that business website gives them such a wide overview of what we actually do and services we provide that by the time they get to that franchise website, they're ready to dig in a little more and ask for more information. If you were to ask me, I will tell you that our current website is seriously lacking. It's in the process of being revamped right now. So, so I have to attribute it to the business website.
Awesome. So, Leeward, I'm going to toss it to you, but as I do that, Mike, I'm going to have you throw up a poll so we can ask everybody that's participating what their top lead sources are so that we can share. So you can pick your 3 top sources from the list here, or you can type in the chat anything that we don't have here, and we will share those with everybody as well after the call. And then Leeward, as they're doing that, if you want to talk to your sources and then the best quality.
Yeah, for us, last year we brought franchise development in-house. We had been with a contract development company prior to that, and then a 1099 contract worker before that. And I think that's been the biggest help that we've had in turning our development around. We also use the broker networks. We started with FranNet, and FranNet was great to us when we first started. Then we went with FranChoice, and now with Franchise Business Brokers Association, and that's been healthy. But this year, our largest lead source and our largest lead source for closures or for awards has been trade shows. I wasn't a big fan of them, but we started doing trade shows in February, and we've done 9 deals this year from the trade shows alone. Very, very cost effective. You know, the quality of leads that we're getting from the trade shows has been outstanding, and it gives us an opportunity to pre-qualify them before that. And then we do, of course, the portals with you all and Franchise Gator and a couple of others, but it's really the trade shows this year, and then the brokers, and then the portals.
That's great. And I was actually at the Denver Expo, which I don't know if people on the call were on, but it was very quiet walking the floor. And I think for several reasons, there was a craft brew fest going on. But everyone that I talked to said that the people that were walking the floor were really interested. And it wasn't just a walking the floor to kind of check things out, that there were really pointed discussions and good follow-ups planned. So it sounds like that's supported by you guys. I know that you were out there as well. So Mike has thrown up what you guys on the phone said. So here's where the top lead sources are from the people that are attending. And then I think, Mike, you have a data slide to share as well from Franchise Update. Mike?
Yeah, sorry, I could not get myself off of mute, but I do have that. So here's the slide. Yeah, so just a little more data that was provided to us by Franchise Update Media. And this is just a look at a year-by-year breakout of the different channels that are producing the most franchise sales from the surveyed brands. So you can see that besides a jump in sales from digital between 2011 and 2012, each channel has remained pretty steady, with franchise referrals consistently making up the second largest piece after the digital piece, followed by brokers. And in addition to that, we got some great additional comments from you from the last poll. Some of the things that people are mentioning for good lead sources is email, pay-per-click marketing, FBR, we got a shout out, consumer and franchise websites, PR, and Facebook, and existing franchisees expanding as well. So those are some additional items that some people in our audience are commenting are additional good sources for their franchise leads.
Great. And then we're going to throw one more question out to the audience, and then we'll switch topics again. So this is a poll question for the attendees. What is your lead contact rate? So we're asking this question on this session, and then in the third session where we talk about closing more deals, we're going to share or ask what the conversion rate is as well. So if you want to answer that as far as your the ability to contact someone that's expressed interest in you. And then as that collects, we can start talking about franchisee referrals, which none of you said was your top producing source, but I think it still can bring in a quality candidate for you guys because it's coming from someone that you trust within your system. So I want to just focus a little bit on franchisee referrals and incentive programs. And Sandee, I want to start with you this time to ask you, do you incentivize your franchisees for referrals? And then as we ask that question, I'm going to have a poll go out to the audience after we wrap this one up, but also you can chat in ideas and incentives that you offer as well. And again, we'll capture that for everybody to send out afterwards. So Sandee, starting with you, do you do anything? And if so, what are you doing to help incentivize the franchisees to prefer those referrals?
We do have a program, and we offer our franchisees 20% of the franchise fee if they refer us a prospect that signs an agreement. And that's a standard referral fee in the business brokerage industry. So it just made it a nice, smooth, easy, it's what they expect. And we do get a lot of referrals. Those referrals that we do get, I would say that we probably convert, I'm going to say 70%, because they've already been sold by the broker before they ever get to us, or by the franchisee, sorry.
Right, so that's perfect. So Leeward, how about you guys? What are you doing, if anything, to help franchisees recommend you?
Yeah, we do a $5,000 reward back to the franchisee, and this year we're working on our first franchisee referral conversion. So we upped it this year from $2,500 to $5,000, and we'll finish the year with one, I think.
That's awesome. And Kevin, how about you guys?
Yeah, so similar to Leeward, we have a $5,000 referral fee. We also do it. We earlier this year we launched our second brand called Pool Scouts, and so it's an opportunity for our franchisees at Mosquito Joe to either refer somebody to Pool Scouts or to Mosquito Joe. But it's $5,000. I would say on average we get about two to three per year. So it's and they're good quality. Obviously good quality franchisees. And I think one of the things we try to do early in the process when the candidates are going through initial training, at the end of training when we wrap up, we talk to them about, in our eyes, what makes a good franchisee and how can they help build the system. We're all in this together. And part of that building the system is to find and refer to us candidates that they would like to see in the system. So it really starts at an early stage, and then when we do get referrals, it's something that we blast out to our system to let them know that franchisee A, B, and C was just awarded $5,000 for referring us so-and-so. So that's how we promote it.
I love that, and I also love the fact that you talk with your franchisees about who makes a strong franchisee for your system, so that you're kind of educating them on that better lead to come to you, not just somebody because they want that $5,000 or whatever it is. So we can throw up the poll question and find out in the audience how many of you are offering some kind of referral or incentive program, and we'll capture any information that comes in from the text or from the chat. But also, too, I want to find all the people that said that they have a 70% contact rate for their leads, because that is awesome. I have not seen that. That group was really high from our last poll question. So it looks like the majority of people are offering something, and we can throw that up, but it looks like about 65% are saying yes, they offer something. And again, I think just thinking about something that shows that you want to be top of mind when they're talking to people about the system and that they're helping you identify that better lead, I think it's worth it. And I've talked to other clients, I think people do appreciate cash, but in some of these systems you're talking about people that have a lot of money and that might not be the incentive. So anything that you can offer that's tied back to the business, so something that will help them grow their business more. I've heard people doing marketing dollars back, or if it's a mobile-based business, offering another van or a truck to somebody that refers the most in that year after a certain minimum. So just thinking creatively too, if you don't want to just do the cash piece of it. I think there's other things to do. So the next topic is I want to understand if you guys have done anything, any type of profiling with your current franchisees, either on your own or through a third party like Zoracle or Franchise Navigator or Proven Match, to identify who those top performers in your system are so that you can go out and find more people that are that better fit for you guys. So Leeward, I'll start with you this time and ask that as far as, are you doing any profiling of your franchisees?
We do. We use Proven Match. We've been with them for right at 2 years now. We polled our existing, at the time, 60 franchisees. And all of them responded. They really were excited about doing that. So it gave us a base for doing that. And then what we did was we sorted them through A, Bs, and Cs. The A's being our strongest franchisees, and C's being the ones that had the most opportunities to succeed. And we use that religiously. Especially for Discovery Days. We go over it the day before Discovery Day with the people that are participating in Discovery Day, and for us it's a way for them to learn and for us to know their learning styles and what they're into, whether it's big picture or minutia or detail or whatever. But the other thing that happened as a result of that, we introduced it to our training and coaching department. And that has been a huge, huge success for them to understand how the new franchisees learn. And we do the same thing for, we have a week-long Big Frog University, and in the pre-Big Frog University meeting, the trainer goes over the individuals that are there and their personality profiles, so that when we're in talking to them during Big Frog University, that everybody knows this person's, likes to see things. This person likes to hear things. This person, and so forth. So it really helps on that end as well.
Awesome. So you're doing it on your current franchisees, and then you're also doing it on the candidate side as well, to help understand, if not necessarily if you're pulling in the right people, but just how they're going to perform in your system. And I guess it goes into your decision-making process as well.
Yeah, that knowing coming in that they're going to be an excellent fit, or they're going to be a marginal fit, or gee, we really need to ask some really pointed questions here.
Okay, perfect. So Sandee, how about you? Are you doing anything for profiling? And I was going to ask about the candidate piece later, but if you want to tie it into both the current franchisee and the candidates, that would be great.
We have not done any formal third-party profiling of our franchisees. We have done some internal studies that we've pulled together, and we also have an internal profiling piece that's part of our application, actually. And we utilize that as we're working with candidates. We don't necessarily use it to approve or disapprove someone, but we utilize it in understanding that person more and how we may interact with that person to help us decide if they're going to be a good fit for our company. So I'm going to call it a business personality profile, incorporated right into our qualification form.
Great. And Kevin, how about you?
Yeah, similar to Leeward, we use Proven Match, and so we went through a process very similar to what he's done. So there's not much to add there. It is though, it is one of those things that if as part of the sales process, it's nice for the franchisee to know, as sort of an affirmation that they are in that they have a very close or almost perfect match with our top performing franchisees. That's just one more piece of information for them to help them make their decision as well. So other than that, nothing really to add in that area.
Okay, so I want to ask, as far as, are there any non-traditional channels that you found are good quality leads? And we did have some people coming in the attendees have typed in that their targeted Facebook ads are working very well for them. So I guess I would like to ask specifically on the social media front, are you finding better candidates with any specific campaigns or places that you're doing that? And then any other non-traditional channels that you found are bringing you good quality conversations or leads? So Kevin, I'll just stay with you on that one.
Sure. We use Facebook and LinkedIn ads, and both are working well for us. We also do targeted pay-per-click in certain MSAs if we want to either enter the MSA or fill it out, and we have a short list of those. Beyond that, I guess in print, the one thing that's worked well for us is the airline magazines. Southwest Airlines has worked well. Delta's worked well for us, which was it was initially a test, and it worked, and it's continued to work well for us. So that might be a little unusual for some people. It's not inexpensive, but it does work well for us.
So sometimes you do have to spend the money for the quality, but yes, I've heard airline is expensive, but does work for some people. Yep. So how about, Sandee, I'll go to you next then. So social media specifically, and then any other non-traditional channels that you found are delivering some good quality for you.
Social media, our targeted Facebook ads do generate a lot of activity. However, I'm not seeing a lot of transition from those. Our LinkedIn ads, on the other hand, are generating more engaged candidates, more than just, let me take a quick look at the website and I'm out of here. So that's been very helpful for us. We have tried some print this year. We tried, because of the candidate we're looking for, much more of a business executive type person. We tried some ads in Inc. magazine, and it was a 3-month test, and obviously we didn't continue it because we got very little out of it. I think that what I've heard from a lot of people as I discussed it with others in the industry, that's one of those channels that has to be consistent long term. So that might have been the reason for it. I don't know, but those are really the big areas we're looking at, and the geo-targeting with email blasts, because we're targeting very specific professions, is another channel that works for us.
And Sandee, before I move on to Leeward, I do want to work into the conversation. I know that you haven't really gone to market with your new strategy, but I would love for you to talk a little bit about how you've engaged to work with Hot Dish and how they're kind of helping you retarget who you're looking for.
So we have always done our marketing internally through our marketing department, and about 4 months ago we engaged Hot Dish Media to really kick off a new messaging profile. And the first thing that they did when we sat down for our SWAT meeting was talk about the messaging that we were putting out there. And we were really focused on what we were looking for, versus we knew who our candidates were. We needed to go out and market to what they were looking for. And something as simple as, a lot of times people hear the word broker and it's kind of negative, and all of my marketing was become a business broker. And when they brought that to our attention, it was a big aha moment. So we've turned the focus around, and we are looking at starting to implement the new series actually next month. So we're pretty excited about that. There's a great campaign. It's much more targeted toward what our franchise prospects are looking for and how our franchise can meet their needs.
Mm-hmm.
And
yeah, and I think that's really, I like that message, because I think that sometimes there's a blend between what PR and what advertising can do for the brand, but just either using an outside advertising agency or just having an outside source come in and answer those questions for you that you know, you want to appeal to the what's in it for them and not necessarily just go out with what you think is your value add. And I think that everyone probably struggles with that. So whether it's an outside vendor that you're working with or just having someone else come in and help you identify that messaging can really help as far as targeting better leads.
You know, you don't realize how quickly you become culture blind. You know who you are, and you think you know how people perceive you. You need to let someone else come in and tell you what people are, what their perception is, and it really is. It's a game changer.
Powerful.
When you get to that point, and you know, tell the story. You know, our franchisees tell a good story, and we were keeping it a secret.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to tell the story and how the pieces fit together to fit their needs, not ours. And that, I think, is going to be extremely powerful, and we're going to see some major changes next year. I'm really looking forward to it.
Good, good. And so, Leeward, then let's have you finish the first question that we posed, which is any social media success that you've had in finding quality, or if you've done it and not found quality, and then any other non-traditional channels that have worked well for you.
Yeah, we did a pay-per-click campaign last year and invested $75,000 in it and came up squadouche. So we didn't. I know it was one of those painful things for us, but we didn't. We started digging into it, and I think that our website had something to do with it. So we've redone our franchise development website. And we haven't given up on it, but it was just it was a real sting for us. So we haven't done much on it this year. What we have done is, as I said, we've done the trade shows, but the interesting thing that we've just done is those dinner mailers. You know, we've all gotten them from financial institutions and stuff. And there's a group that does it now for trade shows, and they have some big brand names that do it, 7-Eleven and some of the others. But we did our first one last week. We had 2 dinners here in the Tampa Bay area, and I was pleasantly surprised. I'll be anxious to see if we close one, but it's about a $13,000 investment. So all we need is 1 or 2 deals out of that, and right now we're scheduling follow-up open houses with our franchisees in the area. So I'm looking forward to that. I think that would be a great opportunity to do regional type development where we have stores and move forward on that. So I'm excited about that opportunity.
That's an interesting way to try something new. And so just briefly, how did you go about doing that as far as, so you targeted your market that you wanted to go in, and then how did you just use a source that you say, you know, this is the type of investment that we're looking for someone to make, and so they provided you with the mailing list? They
did everything. They
awesome.
did the direct mail piece. They did the mailing. They found the prospects. And we had 28 people for the 2 nights, upscale dining, you know, to get people out and that type thing. And I checked this morning, and we have 6 viable prospects out of that. and that are engaged now in the process and so forth. So we will close one of them anyway. And there was a couple of good ones in there, but and then we had probably 4 couples that came just to eat dinner, which was surprising to me, but there you go.
And is this a Florida-based firm, or this is someone that does it nationally, and would you be willing to share their name?
I will. I'll have to send that to you. I don't have it. Well, let me. I don't have it right in front of me.
Sure,
That's
sure.
the company you met. Did you meet them at IFA last year?
I met the guy's name is Sean. I met him through the franchise, the Florida Franchise Association, and I'll find his stuff before we finish the call.
We'll send it out in our wrap-up, so that's perfect.
Okay,
yeah,
great.
That's a great new idea. So we talked a little bit about qualifying new leads, of what your process is, and you talked a little bit about whether you profile candidates or not. But I'm also curious, anything else that you're doing as far as how early on are you qualifying them on the financial side to make sure that they're a better candidate, so you're not kind of wasting time on them, and anything else that you're doing that helps you qualify that new lead and identify them as a better candidate than others. So Sandee, I'll go back to you to start, if you don't mind.
Sure. We do a very minor financial qualification in phase 1, and that's the first phone call. And we set our expectations during that first call, and a lot of our qualification involves they have tasks to do. We call it homework. So and a lot of that includes written answers to questions, so that we're getting a much better idea and we're setting those reasonable expectations. But when all is said and done, that also can turn into a little bit of the plan for them as they move forward with their franchise. The full-blown qualification form usually comes at step 3 out of 6. And a lot of our unqualified candidates will voluntarily fall out very quickly when, during that first conversation, we explain to them that they need to be able to cover their personal expenses for a year while they build this business, because we don't ring a register. It takes about a year before that first business comes to closing, and they see a commission. So it does make it a little easier for us if they're going to self-qualify or disqualify in many cases.
And Sandee, how quickly are you responding to a lead that you get, and how many times are you reaching out to them before you kind of walk away and say, you know, that's not a strong lead for us?
Our team is set to return calls within 2 hours. And we also have all of the leads being sent by text to my cell phone. And during off hours and weekends, obviously when I can, you know, somebody that comes in at 9 o'clock at night, 10 o'clock at night, I'm not calling them. But I will respond to them at that time and let them know that the next business day or the next day they'll be receiving a call from one of our specialists, and just introduce myself. Sometimes it's a voicemail. Quite often I reach them, and they're surprised that they get a call back that quickly. So that's the first piece. Then we have a system where we are calling and emailing a minimum of 6 times before we will shut the candidate down. And you know, many of them might drop into drip campaigns and things like that, but there's a hardcore effort of a minimum of 6 times. I would prefer 9 times. Recently, Harvard Business Review put out a study, and it actually came through that 80% of leads are reached on the 6th contact. And when we actually made that change, we saw an increase in our connection rate of about 30%. So it was
you
worth
were
the
giving
extra
up before
effort.
that 6th time.
I had some of my team that was actually giving up after 3 calls, and I drug them kicking and screaming into a minimum of 6, and they're seeing the results. And they're obviously good results.
And I have somebody is asking if you can you just repeat what you said about having money to cover living expenses? What is it that you're saying to them to kind of set that expectation?
They need to have the ability to cover their personal expenses for a year in order to be comfortable with this franchise, because they get started within 4 to 6 weeks of signing their franchise agreement. But now they're marketing, listing a business, and then trying to get the deal done. It takes about 9 months to a year to get that first deal closed. So if they don't have that, they're never going to survive, and we don't want them to be there. And we have people self-disqualify very quickly, which saves us a lot of time, and we just do it on the first call. Why waste time if they can't do that?
And Sandee, one more question to you, and then I'm going to move on to Kevin. So I had someone ask, and this is a good question. So your contact rate increased by 30% after that 6th attempt, but did you convert more deals from that as well, or were you just chasing people that you finally got, but then still didn't really lean in or engage after you got them?
The contacts that we've reached, I would say that we have numerous ones in the pipeline, but I would say yes, we did see an increase. I can't tell you what that percentage is. I didn't track that.
No, that's great. That's great. So Kevin, how about you? I'm curious, are you doing anything to financially qualify the prospects early on to identify them as a better lead for you, or anything else that you're doing to qualify those new leads and differentiate who's really a strong, solid lead for you?
Yeah, so when they become a lead, either through our website, through a portal, or another channel, they'll automatically receive an email from us, which is attached a little bit of an overview on the business, as well as a what we call a request for consideration, which is a very high level. Just fill this out, give us a little background on yourself, and it does ask for some minimal financial information. So that's the beginning. And if it looks like there's a red flag at that point, our development team will ask that on the first call. It looks like you're a little light on the cash. Where do you expect to get the money from? How are you going to finance this? And then they'll, if they get a satisfactory answer, then they'll go through the regular steps, and then there's a more comprehensive qualification process that's filled out.
Perfect. And I didn't hear you say, but how quickly are you responding to those leads? What do you tell your team?
Same day. They return same day unless it's on the weekend. And we do a total of they get about 3 calls, and if there's been no response, there'll be a couple more emails, and then they'll be killed, and then they'll be put into a drip program for later.
Great. And Leeward, how about you? So just to remind you, we're just wondering how early on are you financially qualifying them, and then anything else you're doing to really profile at the beginning whether it's a strong lead for you or not?
We financially qualify them right after the FTD goes out. They've had a chance to review the documents and so forth. And then we work very closely with the big 3, Benetrends, Fran Fund, and Guidant. And we start them in the process right after the FDD call on working with them. And then we do same day, even through the weekends, as far as responses. So, and then we'll follow up with them 4 or 5 times, and then put them into the drip campaign.
Perfect. You guys, I think, have provided a lot. We've got lots of questions that I want to leave time for. But I did want to just part with asking each of you, any conference that you think is a must attend, any blog or newsletter that you're subscribing to or book that you would recommend for the audience as far as picking up ideas or information to help them in this process of just sales in general or development of their brand. So if you don't have anything, that's okay. But Kevin, I'm going to start with you. I'm going to run through all three of you and then pass it out over to Mike to just run through the questions that we have from everybody.
Sure. You know, the IFA is a great source of information as well as attending the conventions, and so I'd strongly encourage that. And then attending webinars like the one we're on today through FBR. You guys do a great job in getting topical things out there. So I think those are important to do. Those would be my top two.
Great. Well, thanks for the plug for us. That's awesome. Sandee, how about you?
I have to agree. The IFA is a great source of information. The networking that you get along with everything else at their conventions, you can share information. If you don't know, franchisors are more than happy to share information with one another, what works, what doesn't work, new ideas. I'm on the phone with different people every day of the week, and it's all through our connections through IFA, which is very helpful. And again, the same thing, webinars, and of course FranSocial, which is part of IFA, but it's also another great way to find out about the different webinars or programs that might be coming up to help you.
Perfect. Yeah, and I mean, I think that the networking piece is key, and just even Leeward and Sandee, you're close by, and just being on this panel together, you guys are already scheduled a lunch date, so I think that's fantastic. So Leeward, to you. Anything you want to recommend, Leeward?
Yeah, a couple of things. One is we have been attending the Springboard Conference since it began, and I said to both Brad and God, just skipped his name. Lane Fisher. That yeah, Lane. That I was amazed at how much I got out of it this year after being there for the last 4 years. So that's one that I just really feel as though is great. It's small enough that you can talk to everybody. You're not overwhelmed with like IFA itself. I think IFA does a great job, you know, and I commend you all and Fran Connect and the rest of them that do these webinars. I think they're all very, very good. I'm in my late 60s. I've been in a number of different industries in my career. I've never found an industry that is so giving as franchising. It really makes you want to give forward. I've got 3 young concepts that I work with mentoring now. So I really, really enjoy that. And the book that I'd like to throw out there that if people haven't read it, it's one that's been around for a while, but it's called Crossing the Chasm. And it's by a guy named Jeffrey Moore. It really gives an insight into starting a new business or continuing to grow your business and what this chasm pitfall looks like and how to get through it and how to avoid it and all that kind of stuff. So that's one that I throw out. It's one of my favorite books that I've read over the years. So.
Perfect. And then I also just got your email. We can add this in our slides after, our follow-up after, but it's Sean Mulligan with Leading Response, who you worked with on the dinner mailer and attendee list or target list. So thank you for emailing that over as well. So you guys were amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all of that. And Mike, I see that there's tons of questions, so I'm just going to let you roll with those.
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. We do have a whole bunch of questions to get to, so I'm just going to jump right in. And Leeward, I'm going to start with you. This question came in at the beginning of the webinar when you mentioned your 20-page FDD, or your 20-page item 19, rather. And the participant was asking, what are some of the specific representations that you share? Is P&Ls, revenue, year-over-year growth, etc.? What is it that you're sharing in your item 19?
Yeah, we do a monthly KPI report. All of our franchisees are required to send in their income statement and balance sheet by the 10th of each month. And I myself physically take those and put them into spreadsheets and then disseminate it back out to the franchisees by the 15th. And I put all of that data in. So we do gross revenue, we do cost of goods sold, we do rent, we do payroll, we do advertising and marketing, and we'll do utilities and that type of stuff, so that the franchisee, the potential franchisee, can really build their own financial statement very easily, because we put the percentages in there and all that kind of stuff. So I try and make that as robust as we can. This year, for 2017, I'm going to include a table that says if your revenue was X, then the owner benefit was X on average. So we'll take stores in a $50,000 to $100,000 range and average those out and do that. But it's all basically averages from the recap, and then they can go in line by line with each franchisee.
Great, thank you, Leeward. The next question that I have is, somebody mentioned, I heard Franchise Gator mentioned, but what other portals are successful and why? And Kevin, I'm going to start with you, because I also have a question that was directed specifically to you related to portals. And that question is, Kevin, I'm the director of a service-related brand. In regards to portals, what do you see as the most important pieces of information you seek? And do you feel that increasing the net worth truly increases the quality, or do you lose potential leads too soon? So kind of a loaded question there. I'm just going to let you take that and run with it a little bit, and let us know if there's any other portals that you would recommend as well.
Sure. So we've gone, let me just step back a little bit. We've gone through a process over the last few years of trying as many different things as we could early on, and then each year we spend time and we look at what's worked for us, and both what works for us in getting leads and what works for us in getting quality leads. So right now I would say we're not on a lot of portals. We are on things like, be a good example. Obviously, Mosquito Joe's our number one. Mosquito Joe Franchising is number one. In terms of the portals, we're on Gator, America's Best Franchises, Entrepreneur.com, and Franchise Solutions would be a pretty big one for us, with Gator being the largest. We have not seen a difference increasing the net worth requirement in terms of the quality of the leads coming in. It's just not something that for ours, it's a small investment. We really haven't seen that as a way of just improving the quality. So I wouldn't say that's something that's been useful to us. But that is it. I'm just trying to see if there's some other portals that we're using. Now the big ones, Gator and Solutions are the big ones for us.
All right, great. Thank you, Kevin. And Sandee, I'm just going to move over to you with the second part of that question, or rather the first part. What other portals, other than Franchise Gator, which was mentioned earlier, have you found to be successful, and why?
We are on a lot of the same portals. We're also with Franchise Opportunities and Franchise Help. We're starting to see some better quality leads from Franchise Opportunities, and we actually review our lead flow and transition of those leads on a monthly basis. And we will, if we see that we go 60 days where we're not getting at least our average contact and then conversion to engaged lead rate, we will drop out of that and we'll move on. But right now, Franchise Help still seems to be sending us good leads, and Franchise Opportunities are working well for us.
Perfect, thank you. So, Leeward, is there anything that you wanted to add to that list of portals that are working well?
Other than you all know, we use Gator and Solutions as well, but It's really not our top quality lead generator.
All right, great. So there's a couple questions that came in earlier when we were talking about franchisee referrals, and just looking at some of the comments that came in, it looks like in our audience we have franchise referral fees that range from $2,000, actually one as low as $250 and up to $15,000. So a couple questions there. One being that if you're offering a franchise referral fee to your franchisees, is there a reduced sales commission associated with that lead that's coming in through them? So Leeward, let me start with you on that question.
Yeah, we settled on the $5,000 with the assistance of our legal counsel. I guess it's quite nebulous through the SEC on what is considered acceptable to the franchisees. So our attorneys feel very comfortably at the $5,000. And the second part of that was,
if the referral fee is going to the franchisees, are you paying to the salesperson for
No. If anything, we would pay them more because the acquisition cost on that would be significantly lower than brokers or any type of traditional lead generation. So, but no, we don't. It just goes into the pile with the rest of them.
Great. And Sandee, what about you? Same question. Are you your sales commission when you're paying the franchisee referral fee?
We are. We pay our net franchise fee. And it still seems to work out well for us. Our franchise team still works hard. If we know it's going to be an extremely low commission, then that lead will be passed on to me, and I will handle it so that they can work on the higher commission deals. So it's just a very cooperative effort between us and our team.
Gotcha, that's great. And Kevin, what about you?
Yeah, we pay the $5,000 and we don't change the commission fee to our development folks. They're going to be doing the same amount of work, and so there's no change there. I did ask the question. We did toy around with increasing the commission fee, and I asked that question to somebody that has a lot more experience than I do in recruiting franchisees, and what he told me is above $5,000, he doesn't see any noticeable difference. So in terms of getting franchisees to make referrals. So in his view, anything above $5,000 was not going to be a significant shaker. With the only difference being in maybe some of these much larger type of franchises where the commission fee is, or where the franchise fee is significant, the investment significant, it might be a little bit larger.
Yeah,
not our size.
I definitely agree with that. I'll tell you the reason why our fee is a little higher is because, like real estate brokers, our brokers can bring those prospects on as agents and be sharing in that agent's commissions. So there had to be a little bit of a leveling of the playing field of, do they keep them for themselves, which still grows our company, but it's not a franchise, or can we incentivize them to move them into a franchise with us from the very beginning? So we're kind of dancing a tightrope with that scenario in our business.
So there's a question that came in that it came in earlier, and you're kind of touching on it, but I don't think it's really been answered, which is when you have a larger referral fee of $5,000 plus, does that make, and coming from franchisee referrals, does that make your franchisee a sales agent, and would you need to register them as a sales agent? So kind of a question I haven't personally thought about before. I don't know, Sandee, do you have any insight on that?
I will tell you, in my prior industries, I would have considered it as a sales agent. And we had a lot of go-arounds with our attorneys in this regard because our fee is a little bit higher, but because it's a standard referral fee that anyone would pay referring a business client to another in our industry, that got us past that scenario. There was enough to help with that. Also, the fact that we require due diligence and we require them to speak to at least 3 franchisees we can document, and it doesn't count the franchisee they first spoke with. That will take into account with that. But I have heard from attorneys in the past, and I was in the restaurant industry at the time, that if you're paying a significant amount, that they would be very careful, or they don't recommend it because it could be considered a sales agent, or bringing someone into your discovery day of franchisees so they can speak to them in the back of the room. It's the same type scenario. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. You want to encourage them, but at the same time you definitely don't want to be paying them a huge amount. And for whatever reason, $5,000 seems to be the magic number that attorneys are comfortable with.
Great. No, answer let's see, let's jump to another question here for a little thing that was asked. Initial franchisee application request any financial information. So their net value or liquidity right up front in the application.
You know, it's interesting because it's kind of twofold. With all of the broker candidates that we get from FranNet, FranChoice, and those groups, consultants, the financials come with it. So we ask for it on the initial application when they apply, and like Kevin, we do a little bit, and then if there's any questions, then we go into it a lot deeper. So we'll just ask for assets and where the money is and that type stuff, and then if there's questions, we'll go into it a lot deeper and ask for a full financial statement. But we do that very early on.
Great. And Kevin, I know that you did mention this a little bit earlier, but what financial information are you looking for up front in that initial application?
Cash availability for investing in the business, net worth, and I think those are the two important ones on the initial document.
Great. Okay, so I'm going to move along because we still have a bunch of questions, which is great. Sandee, there's a couple questions that came in earlier when you were talking about doing your follow-ups to prospects that were coming in. How many people do you have on your development team, and on average, how many leads per month are you receiving?
We have 4 people, that includes myself, and we are getting an average of about 150 leads. I apologize. That's about a week. So we're getting about 600 leads a month.
Great. And you had mentioned the 6 follow-up attempts. Over what period of time would those 6 take place if you hadn't gotten a response?
It varies a little bit depending on what's going on, but the initial 3 calls should be within 3 to 5 days. Thereafter, they may spread them out a week, 3 days, 5 days. That's open to 1, their schedule, and 2, just their own thought process, because as they're going through, as they're calling leads, they're also doing their Google searches, looking them up in advance, and they're prioritizing who they're calling based upon what they can find online, again, because we're looking for that business person candidate versus the candidates that I might look for a retail type franchise, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. That's great. Okay, so another question I'll put to all three of you is, other than the big major players with financial lending, what partnerships do you have with, or have preferred lenders relationships with for your franchisees that have worked out well? So are there any financial lenders that you're working with that are not the obvious ones? So Kevin, I'll start with you for that question.
Yeah, and I'm not sure when you say the obvious ones, Michael. I mean, we really work with two, and I think this is what you mean. We work with Fran Fund and Benetrans, and they're the two folks that really help our franchisees secure financing if it's needed. In that case, we're on the lower end of the spectrum for investment, so it's not off. And many times they have the cash available, or can get a line of credit through their bank on their home if they need that. But if there's other ones, then we go to Fran Fund and Benetrans.
Great. Yeah. So I think those would definitely be two of the big ones. I know Guidant and Directed Equity also would be big players.
Right.
So Leeward, what about you? We've mentioned a few. Are there any others that you have partnerships with?
Not at all. We just use those three: Guidant, Fran Fund, and Benetrans.
All right. And Sandee, what about you?
Same. We use the same. However, we also use Stearns Bank, and Stearns Bank does a lot of business with us on the business brokerage side. So they created a special program for us, but we're in the same scenario where we have a lower end of the spectrum investment. So it really doesn't happen all that often, but it's nice to know that if necessary, we have several great sources for them to go to.
Perfect. All right. Leeward, I'm going to come back to you because I have one more FDD question, and I know you have a very item 19 question, and I know yours is rather robust. So do you go, well, let me just read the question as it is. Guidance or limitations on what you discuss with your FDD, do you go item by item? Our attorney has recommended doing an FAQ and to not go item by item. So do you have any insight on how you would guide somebody with their FDD?
I've learned take the advice of your attorney over me. But seriously, I don't go over each line item, but I do talk about the averages. And what I do is I focus on the top third of the franchisees, and I give that average. And I also talk about the middle third and the bottom third. But I really focus on the top third because when I ask people where they want to play, they always say, oh, well, I want to be in the top third. Well, duh. But we really do focus on those numbers, and I just find that after when they come in for Discovery Day and they have validation questions about a specific franchisee that validated, I go right to item 19, and I talk to them about, their cost of goods, where they are in the system, and so forth and so on. And boy, that really takes the detractor part out of it if they were a detractor. So I use it an awful lot. And my philosophy is if it's in there, I can talk about it. If it's not, I can't. So far, I've stayed out of jail.
I think that's probably a pretty good philosophy.
Leeward, do you provide them information about, like, a summary of the FDD, not your specific offering, but just the FDD in general as part of your process?
We talk about the FDD quite a bit, mainly because it's, we want them to make sure they understand what's in there, because that's all the rules of the game. And again, from our standpoint, it's all about transparency, and it's all about no surprises. You know, I tell our prospective franchisees in Discovery Day, from the moment they walk in, this is all about giving you enough information for you to make a decision and not be surprised at anything you learn along the way of this journey. So.
Okay.
All right. So we're just about out of time. I have one quick question for Sandee, and you might not have the answer right off the bat. But somebody asked, would it be possible for you to share with us in the follow-up the name of the Harvard Business Review study you mentioned that stated 80% of leads are reached on the 6th contact? I don't know if you have that offhand or not.
I have a copy of it, so I will forward you a copy of it.
All right, that would be perfect, and we'll include that in our follow-up materials. Well, we're going to wrap it up there because we're right at about the 90-minute mark. So thank you for a great conversation, panelists. And thanks for everybody who attended. I hope you enjoyed part 1 of the series. You will be receiving a follow-up email tomorrow with the summary and the recording for today's session, and of course session 2, which I'll give you a little preview on your screen, is on Thursday, same time, same place. So we look forward to seeing you all there. Panelists, thank you again. It was really a great conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a great day.
Take care.